Never get in trouble for helping Brian. It's one of my cousins. Are we waiting? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get some water. Extra.
It was great. I have
You got like 4.
a lot to do to get caught up.
Mexico Tuesday. I've got 4 on top and 4 on arms.
We're gonna wait until Bill gets back.
Toddlers. It's amazing how many
Yeah, it was fantastic.
olders.
My voice didn't even get heavy too often.
Life, so. That's what
Which was impressive because we really pushed.
yeah, then you just like rip them. You're like,
Oh, that's where we Centuries, 5 cities, and 70 everything else.
Oh, we've never done that.
I know. On the 21st to be done publicly, I think.
He's coming for the
But thank you, because I would have not had that on my
Yeah, I'm
calendar.
missing the 20th. Oh, you're not the 21st.
you used to move everything a little bit.
My sister-in-law and I always try to get together once a year. It's where we do our games. I'll tell you more about it some other day. Everything. Okay, good. I was like, when I don't have a, this is a democracy. It's on the,
Well, it's on this calendar.
it's on the same.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's totally fine. I started it.
I don't think we can show it. It's called Best Offer Bonus. This one was trying that out. It's really hard.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like she's just like guys have been
Maybe out of bounds of what's supposed to be. Stalking, trespassing. Just like,
So we are.
just
I don't have any.
Okay, good evening. It's 5 o'clock. We'll get started. I'll call the Village Board of Oregon to order for Monday, April 6, 2026. Ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Higgins.
Here.
Kurchdorfer.
Here.
Knipfer.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
McDaniel. Here. Peterson. And Van Kampen.
Here, thank you. Item 3, approval of March 16th, 2026 Village Board meeting minutes, if correct, and correction mistakes, if any. A motion to approve, Page and Kirchhofer. Questions, corrections? Hearing none. We have a motion by Knipfer, a second by Kirchhofer. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Items for discussion and/or possible action.
Isn't that supposed to be a roll call vote?
No,
Minutes?
No, oh.
No.
Okay.
sorry.
Not vouchers. Vouchers.
I misheard.
It's certainly a mistake I frequently made, so thanks for pointing that out.
Time you
Item
didn't make the mistake.
Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Item for discussion or possible action. A, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Otherwise, the agenda will proceed as posted. Public comments. We have registered Tom Bjorkston. If you want to come up, Tom. You have about 3 minutes, Tom. If you give us your name and address, please.
I'm Tom Bjornson, and I live at 153 Johnson Street. And I would like to have it so that we could burn in our backyards and gardens again. I think that it ought to be able to be done any day of the week. And also times when they couldn't burn before, like during the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday when other people aren't there. And I've burned lots of times over the years until they stopped doing it. Last time I had permission to burn, and my neighbor who I've had a conflict with dial 911, and along come a squad car, an ambulance, and a fire engine. And the fire captain, he went back, a guy by the name of Tom Ethan. I told him about the neighbor's lawnmower shed that had been an aggravating factor. I didn't like it how he had a woman in the mannequin and looking out his window. I didn't like his signs that said trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again, 4 signs similar to that. And I didn't like the American flag because I just want to think about nature and growing things. And as soon as I told that to the guy, the fire had to be put out. It was only as big as maybe 2 of those portable fire pits. But I felt like he stuck it to me because I didn't want the flag there. I don't want to think about politics, I want to think about nature. So, keep in mind, I've done this for years, and I've never had the fire get away from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming in, Tom.
I don't have a chance, I know it, but I gotta do it.
Well, that's fine.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in. Anyone else for public comments? Seeing none. Let's see, item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $1,477,707.35. Staff recommendation, motion approved. Higgins and Knipper. Questions on these items? Tim?
2 questions. Page 12, Building 60 had a very expensive energy bill, $12,000. Is that for something other than just an energy bill? Page 12?
That's pretty typical for a monthly bill for, that's for building number 60. It ranges somewhere between 10, 13,000 a month.
Which building is?
It's the,
Wastewater treatment plant. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. And
Thank
then
you.
my other question was on page 19, MRO payment of $117,000. What's that for CC Lane, Oregon?
Yeah, that's the municipal revenue obligation that we have for the CC Lane project. That's due on March 31st each year if they pay their entire tax bill by January 15th, which they met that, so they were paid out the MRO then on
Great.
March 31st.
Thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Questions? Okay, so roll call vote. We have a motion by Higgins, second by Knipper.
McDaniel,
Yes?
Van Campen,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Kirchdorfer,
Yes.
and Knipfer.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda. Staff recommendation, motion approved the consent agenda items as presented. That's 6A through 6C. Motion by Higgins, second by Knipper. Questions, comments on these 3 items?
I did have a question on B, like why are the reclassifications significant?
The main impact to us is really the pots of money that we can apply for federal grant funding through. You can get certain monies for collectors versus local streets. So that's the primary impact to us.
And was there some advantage to having more or fewer streets designated with the different designations? It seemed like this reduces the number of streets with this designation.
This kind of, I think, codifies a bit of a perimeter route is what they're going for, and tries to take some of these designations, these higher volume designations out of the middle of the village. And based on their average daily traffic readings, that seems to be pretty reasonable. There is maybe more funding available for these higher volume streets. In fact, the one that they really took out was East Lincoln Street, and that used to be a collector, and that's how we got the funding for that project this year. That was actually our major question to them before we put this through, is does this impact that funding? And it does not. It tends to be a little bit more competitive when you're trying to get funding to do local streets. So that's a little bit trickier, but again, this was kind of one of those, we are doing this, so
Okay.
please approve it for us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions on these three items? Hearing none. Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Kirstover. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 7, reports of committees, none. Item 8, unfinished business items for discussion and/or possible action. A, 17,650,000 general obligation primary notes, Series 2026A. 1, scope of engagement with Quarles and Brady LLP for proposed issuance of securities. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Kirstover and Higgins, questions on these, on this first item? Tom?
I would just note that these are both elements of a long-standing process, and that we have talked about these and within the plans, and these are in line with what we've been discussing for really months.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have motion on this item by Kirstover, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item A2, presentation of pre-sale report from Village Financial Advisor Ellers. We have Brian with us tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I do have both pre-sale reports for you tonight, so that would be 2026A as well as 2026B. One thing I'll note, there is only one resolution for 2026A for you tonight, and the B will be later on in the month before the sale. The reason for that is just kind of getting things together for Quarles, and also just trying to make sure we're pinpointing the correct amount in terms of a payoff, which I'll get into in a second here, but both will be approved. You know, doesn't change the timeline in terms of the sale. We're hoping to go to market on the same day. So just kind of wanted to bring that out. I would not intend to come back for that kind of green light award at your next meeting. So we'll dive right in. So we'll start with A, if you want to go to that pre-sale report in your packet. The majority of which, this is your 17.65 million of general obligation promissory notes. The majority of the executive summary, so the first several pages that you'll see here, are almost exactly the same that you see each year as you do your general obligation borrowing. If you do recall, back in April of 2024, the state legislature did allow for GO notes to be up to 20 years. So previously, something like this, you may have typically seen bonds, but just to remind you kind of, you know, last year and 2 years ago, we've been doing general obligation notes. One of the benefits there is you don't have to adopt resolutions by purpose, so that gives you more financial flexibility. If projects come in less, you can use it for other things. Versus if it was bonds, you might be more restricted on what you can use the proceeds for, all of which still have to be public improvements. So there are just a couple of highlights through this executive summary. The purposes of this are listed in Table 1. We'll get to the tables in a second, so if you want to see a project list within my packet that we provided, Table 1 has all of the projects identified. Of the 17.65 million, $15 million of that is the senior center. In terms of general obligation debt capacity, there's a table as well there at the end of the presentation, but at the time of borrowing, you'll be at about 53% of that limit. As you amortize debt, of course, you gain back that limitation. The term and call feature, Given the magnitude of the adjustment kind of following along, or excuse me, the magnitude of the borrowing and following along your financial management plan, really, we've been planning for this for several years. It's been 20-year term. So trying to make sure that this is structured in a manner to which it's as level of an impact, including your future borrowing plans as well. That's why we're going for a 20-year term. It will be prepayable starting in March of 2034 so therefore the maturities March 2035 and thereafter can be prepaid or refinanced. Technically, you could do a taxable advance refunding still, but typically the market on a taxable financing is higher, so you don't see the savings there. The other couple of things I'll mention is this will be rated again. In terms of the B issue, this will be the first time that we're recommending your revenue pledge debt be rated. Couple of reasons for that. If you recall, when I came here, I think this was 4 years ago, at that time, you were going into the market for water and sewer revenue bonds. The reason we didn't is there's some work to do on the rates in order to prove that you had adequate revenues to meet debt coverage. So a couple of years ago, that financial management plan, the utilities section, we had a series of 10 years of rate adjustments and said, kind of year 3 or year 4 of that, we might be ready for a rating the next time you go out to market. The other thing is you've been utilizing the Environmental Improvement Fund or the Clean Water Program, the Safe Drinking Water Fund program, and that's a subsidized loan program for utility projects. Some of these projects don't qualify, so we don't go get a rating when you get a subsidized loan because the state doesn't require you to get a rating on that. It's a private placement with the state when you're utilizing those programs. So has been some time since we've talked about that. I did want to kind of highlight that we would recommend not only, of course, continuing your rating practice for the general obligation debt, but do so as well on the revenue debt because we feel the village is in a better position in order to realize lower interest rates that would pay for the rating and beyond. So before I continue, any questions on kind of that's one unique component relative to financial management plan discussions and prior borrowings? Okay. So then let's jump to the tables. Basically, we're kind of going to market here, similar as we have other times. And the resolution in front of you is a parameters resolution, which means as long as those that bid on both issuances meet within the parameters provided here, you are authorizing staff to sign off on the sale when that happens. So that sale will be in late April. I believe it's April 29th. I'm just making sure. Yes, April 29th. The reason for that is a lot of communities meet on Mondays and Tuesdays, obviously being a Monday meeting. Here, we want to kind of give us the only sale that day, so that's one of the reasons you've executed this strategy for the past couple of years as well, and that's been successful getting higher demand for your issue and lower interest rates. So Table 1 is kind of shown on screen, is that list of projects. I'm not going to go through that, but that is for both issues there. You may note the revenue amount for new projects is 1.8 million on the revenue debt, and then we are refunding the 2024 revenue bond anticipation note, which we took out 25, which we took out last year in order to pay for the water utility projects that we were hoping to get the Safe Drinking Water Fund loans for, and the village was unable to secure those. So now this is kind of Plan B, if you will. We're going out to market now that we know we're not going to be able to get that funding for that project. So 1.8 million of new money on the revenue deal, and there's a refunding component that should be just a little bit less than $3 million. So that's all shown on Table 2. We take your total projects, isolate them by purpose. So for the general obligation debt, what we're looking at is, things that should last 20 years or greater, we can amortize for 20 years. things that should last for 10 years or greater, we can amortize over 10 years. And then there's a TIF portion of this as well for the general obligation debt. That's how we get to 17.5 million in project costs. There are issuance expenses, estimated interest earnings, and that's how we get to the 17.65 million of projected borrowing amount. On the revenue debt, as mentioned, 1.835 of new money projects, and then the 2025 revenue bond anticipation note refunding. In speaking with staff, you guys are kind of still making draws on that, right? So we are trying to isolate that dollar amount, make sure that we have the right amount for that. Also working with Corals to get all of their fund questions answered as well, the bond attorneys. So this amount might come down slightly in our recent conversations with staff. We're seeing about 2.8, maybe 2.9 million. So hopefully that'll come down, but just note you'll be revisiting that dollar amount and that parameters resolution specifically on your meeting on the 20th. So, but that's how we get to 5.4 million for the revenue borrowing. Table 3 and 4 are just our amortization schedules. I think what's going to be more impactful for the board as you consider this resolution is Table 5, as those Table 3 and 4 are just kind of how we structure it. Those tables are more advantageous for staff and planning in terms of how they are accounting for the purposes of each issue. But Table 5 will look at the impact of the tax bills for debt service only. There's no operating costs in terms of, you know, next year's budget or the budgets beyond. It's only looking at potential tax rates for debt service. They're including the 2026 notes only. So that's the A issue only. And so there you can see in the middle of the page, there's levy change from prior year. If you recall from our FMP presentations, right, we kind of want that to be as level as possible. You will note that considering only the 2026 issue, right, it does go up and down, but that's because we have that future debt to consider there. So that is why we'll go to Table 6, and this includes your 10-year borrowing plan as part of the financial management planning process there, and that is what kind of will show maybe a steadier picture in terms of tax rate for debt service. One thing I'll note, of course, when you have kind of large legacy projects like buildings, and right, this is kind of in larger issue than the, let's say, your average annual issue. There will be new money, new problems, and new payment on the books, if you will. So there is a slight increase in 2028, but that was, again, we have these projects as well as future projects to consider here. Overall, I would say the second to rightmost column should be most indicative to show kind of the annual taxes difference per year in terms of debt service. So next year about a $14 impact, the year after a $107 impact. The most right-hand side is kind of answering the question, what are we paying for the new projects? Let's imagine that the existing debt doesn't exist, and just kind of like, what are we paying for new projects only? And that is for your entire 10-year plan over, you know, the almost, 25, 26 years there. So understand the difference between the two. Second to rightmost column, change from the prior year in terms of total debt. Rightmost column is kind of what are we paying for the new project. So hopefully that can be helpful in your understanding as to the impact. And again, that includes not just tonight's consideration, but the 10-year plan as well. Table 7 is that general obligation debt capacity analysis. One thing I'll note here, two rightmost columns, you do have your own internal debt management policy at 3.75% of EV, or about 75% of the state statute. Really what you're looking at there, you still have about 27.9 million of borrowing capacity to your own debt limitation, which is something you've put on yourself to make sure you do not exceed that statutory limit, as well as leave room for any emergency funding as well. So still in a healthy position in terms of your general obligation debt capacity. And then the next page is looking at the revenue debt coverage. So you are issuing water and sewer revenue bonds, meaning they're considered combined in terms of their pledge. So the investor's saying, how are the utilities doing together, as well as the rating agency, and can they pay for that debt? That is the rightmost columns with the orange header. I do want to show the kind of individual water, because all of these projects are all water. The water utility was just about at where we want it to be, which is 1.6. That is the blue header section. That's about 1.6. And I'll note the recently approved Public Service Commission adjustment will put you even in a better position, right, to be prepared for future projects for the water utility. And then another thing to mention is looking at the all-in debt coverage in the middle this is based off of 2024 net revenues. So if somebody's asking, we have had two recent sewer rate adjustments, 2025 and 2026, that were, larger than 20% each in magnitude. This is the reason why, right? We were planning for these big projects upcoming. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that this analysis kind of looks backward, intentionally so, to kind of show this is your last audit statement, but you have done rate adjustments recently. We'll be conveying this message to both the investing community as well as the rating agency to say now the utilities are ready to be rated. We do think the utilities are in a healthy position as a result of these adjustments, continuing on with the 10-year plan. But just kind of wanted to point that out. These tables can be very important outside of, debt impact and tax impact, understanding, can the utilities handle this? They now can, but 2 years ago they couldn't. So hopefully that's impactful to you all. Lastly, I'll part with the last table is just kind of market trends. We have seen the market kind of come down from last summer, some ups and downs in the beginning of the year, still to be seen. Certainly there's global events at play that have certainly affect various markets. One thing we have seen is actually fixed income securities come down a little bit. So hopefully good news for municipal issuers, all things considered, but I wanted to provide some context in terms of a one-year look at where rates have been. So hopefully that wasn't too much information, but needed to cover two issues in one. Again, GO issue or 26A is for consideration tonight. B will be in consideration on the 20th, and I can certainly stay and answer any questions.
Okay, questions for Brian? Rick?
You mentioned something about that you wanted to go with notes rather than bonds because of the flexibility. Does that impact the overall cost of the finance itself? You mentioned bond indices here. Is the note the same?
Yeah, it's the pledge that the market's looking at, so general obligation versus revenue and taxability, so tax exempt or taxable. Whether we call it a bond or a note doesn't impact those things. It would impact, I think, only the cost of issuance from the bond attorney's perspective. They would have to provide more resolutions, honestly, for the village. So they may adjust their fees. I can't speak for them, but just it would be more work on their end. No, we don't change our pricing for notes versus bonds. So could be a little more costly if it were bonds due to the bond attorney's fees, but I can't be certain on that, but would not affect market pricing.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, we will then consider item 783, resolution number 26-08, authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale not to exceed $17,650,000 general obligation promissory notes, Series 2026A. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Higgins and Knifer, questions, comments? Hearing none. Motion by Higgins, second by Knifer. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I think we've covered B. Yeah, okay, so everyone clear on that? We've already covered, okay, good, thank you. Let's see here. Okay, 8C, task order number 26-02 with Strand Associates for engineering services related to the Lincoln Road Tower and South Standpipe rehabilitation in amount of $122,000. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Higgins and Marks. Questions on this item?
We got great clean water, let's keep it that way.
Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Marks. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. 8D, review 2026 Public Works Garage Roof Replacement bids and consider awarding base bid contract to Advanced Building Corporation in the amount of $135,000 and to reject the voluntary alternate bid. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Knipper and Higgins. Questions on this item? Tom?
I guess it's just a question on why not standing seam versus, it would seem like standing seam wouldn't be as expensive as a regular metal roof, so I'm not quite clear on what kind of metal roof we are using that's less expensive.
Yes, I do.
I won't claim to be the expert on this because Christian did the bidding for it, but you guys, the existing roof, under my understanding, is an exposed fastener roof. So that would be the roofing style, like a pole shed style roof versus standing seam. And we would typically see that be a lower cost. And the reason, again, for not recommending award of the alternate is the entire roof isn't getting taken off, just a portion of it. The existing roof is an exposed fastener roof.
Oh, that makes sense when you say it that way.
Anybody else? Lynn?
If we are thinking about a future project of doing solar panels on this roof, is what we're doing right now gonna be feasible for that? Yes, I got a nod. Thanks.
Okay. Others? Okay, we have a motion by Knipper, a second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 8E, change order number 2 to the contract with Stop Construction Corporation for the wastewater upgrades project in the amount of $135,765. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Motion by Higgins, second by Kurtstover. Questions on this item? Tom?
I guess just one I'm trying to think if this is the one I had the question on. So part of this was that normally this would be offset by some other cost savings that instead we're deferring to the end of the project. Just to understand that a little bit, could we just get a little more of an explanation on that?
Ben, actually, why don't you go ahead?
Ben returns. Yeah.
So that is referring to what we call supplemental bid items. So those are unit price items. If you remember when we awarded the project roughly a year ago, we include on the bid form a variety of items that are very specifically like backfill due to unsuitable soils, expansion of asphalt pavement area, those types of things. To date, we've used very few of those, and what we like to do and kind of talked with Lauren about is none of the stuff in this change order specifically fit in those categories. We could kind of force them to fit and just make it work, but we felt it was better, and I like to bring it forward when it doesn't fit into one of those categories, ultimately realizing that basically still acts as an allowance at the end of the project. Does that make sense?
Right, and basically we're doing that to show the transparency of the additional costs versus a differentiated cost that we're not going to incur. Yeah.
Other questions? You can stay, Ben. I think you might be calling on you again. Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Kirstover. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Pardon me.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed, say no. Motion carries. 8F, authorize issuance of request for proposal for professional consulting services for a bicycle and pedestrian transportation study. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Higgins, Kirstover. Questions, comments on this item?
I'm excited on
Higgins,
this one.
okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Kirstover. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item G, 8G, proposal from Town and Country Engineering for construction management services for the 2026 East Lincoln Street, Park Street, and Waterman Street intersection and Public Works Garage roof replacement projects for not to exceed amount of $165,000. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Higgins, Knipper. Questions on this item? Ben's still here. Tom?
Just a clarification, this is because we have so many projects going on right now, that it's just simply because we are in this capital improvements mode right now, that we have so many projects all hitting at the same time that we need to involve additional consulting services or management services.
Yeah, so we would always have a construction inspector on site during our projects so that we make sure that we're getting what we wanted. What we're really doing here is we have so many projects that are happening in a very small footprint that we talk to Town and Country about essentially, let's bring 1 or 2 inspectors on site and they can kind of best manage their time so that they're running around this very small footprint and kind of watching all of them, and we're getting some efficiencies by using that same team. Town and Country also has a ton of familiarity with the way that we work and with this area and the unique challenges that it presents after this last year. And so I can't think of anybody that I would trust more to be out there watching this work while it's being done.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Higgins, second by Knipper. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 8B, review proposals received for professional consulting services for village-wide tree inventory and creation of urban forestry management plan, and consider recommendation of contract with Watchell Tree Service Incorporated at a not-to-exceed amount of $42,343.86. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Motion by Knipfer, second by Higgins. Questions, comments on this item? Nothing? Okay, we have a motion by Knipfer, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 9, new business items for discussion and/or possible action. A, Oregon Community Access OCA Media Funding. I think Tom might have added this item.
Yeah, I requested this item as a continuation of to actually engage in a discussion that we actually started as part of the presentation that OCA Media made the last time they were here. In that presentation, and I think that all of us are aware that the funding mechanism we have for the current funding for OCA Media is a broken process, and from the standpoint that it is going to decline and continue to decline for a long period of time. And I want to talk about finding a way to develop a plan to provide funding for what I see as a critical service when we talk about being transparent and providing information to the community about village government and the things that we have going. I don't have a specific, this is what I'm going to propose for a solution. I guess more that we need to work to find a solution, and I think it's a solution that's going to involve multiple entities within our community, and I guess I would hope that we can direct staff or and I don't know whether it's our community communications director or how we would go, who would actually lead this, but at least have that discussion amongst ourselves.
think Paul is here from OCA. If maybe you want to come up, Paul, in case we have a question or two. You don't mind? Uh, One thing, I had some initial discussions with, over email with Paul and spoke to Martin, and I need to discuss further with Elise and Leanne. Is a potentially the Tourism Commission being able to provide some type of a grant. And it sounded like that might be workable, so I just need to do a little more investigation. And hopefully we can proceed with something like that. Tim?
I have lots of thoughts on this, so bear with me for a second here. I have said in multiple forums and places that I think Oregon is a great place to live. Our clean water, our highly rated fire department, our great school district, our more parks per capita are some of the reasons why I think Oregon rocks. OCA Media is another reason why I think it's a great place to live. Their work covering high school sports, covering municipal business, and other community events. I mean, last week I was putting candy and Easter eggs for the fire department's Easter egg hunt, and there's Frank Caruso with his camera, as he is at almost every other community gathering, celebrating the community that we are. So I have a great deal of affection for what OCA Media does, and I hope that we can find a solution to it. And I also see that we have had a problem as a board and as a village sometimes communicating with the community. I was talking with Lauren a little bit about, for the next Public Works meeting, we need to develop a plan to explain to the community what to do when we shut down this intersection out here, where the detour routes are. There's a lot to be communicated around that in terms of some of those detour routes will go past schools. We need to remind people that, slow down through these neighborhoods. Maybe get some cooperation from the police department about staging some police presence in some of those areas that might be problematic. So it's a multifaceted, multimedia communication plan that it seems to me OCA might have the resources to help us solve on sort of a contract basis where you do a project. It isn't necessarily ongoing revenue every year, but there might be projects. Now I say this having no idea where we're getting the funds to pay for this. It's an idea at this point. But I think that there's an idea that might help some of the financial problems that OCA is feeling if they have some of the capacity to help us with some of these projects. Because there are other communication things we've been trying to do for a long time. And as I was mentioning before the meeting, one of these municipal magazines had a great quote about the great fallacy about communication is that it happened. You think it happened, but nobody got the message. Everybody's like, this road is closed? Nobody told me, And so finding ways to communicate more effectively, I think, would be a plus. And so I'd be happy to participate in talking about ideas of ways to help fund OCA Media if we come up with anything.
Same, and I also just wanted to add the recap video. Like that's been so when I joined this board, that was my big thing was I don't expect every average villager to read the hundreds of pages, right? Like you voted for me to do that work and to read that and I don't expect everyone even to watch the recordings of these meetings, especially like a mom like me with kids, and I don't expect that. But that recap video that you guys just put out, you should have heard me. I was so excited because I think that's how we get more people engaged and paying attention to what's going on. I don't expect them to watch 2-hour meetings. I don't expect them to read hundreds of pages, but that video, chef's kiss. That's all I'm going to say. So thank you.
I agree. That was very well done. I agree.
Anybody else?
Sure. I think, again, this is absolutely critical infrastructure that the community needs and want to be able to support this. I think that for the sake of the people that are paying for it, we just want to make sure that we're paying the right proportion of those fees and making sure that all the stakeholders that are benefiting from your service be able to provide their fair proportion of that as well, and coming up with those numbers for a 5-year plan, because you were suggesting that the equipment that we need to purchase would be about at least a 5-year window on those, would make sense for us to find a way to know that we have operating costs for those, for the time that we're gonna be spending the money on the infrastructure. Other than that, I absolutely want to find a way, and I can say that what I've looked at in other communities, most other communities have these paid for, not as a nonprofit, but as part of their village costs. And so I think you do a good job of being efficient with the money that you are spending, and that it would most likely cost us more if we were to try and absorb this as a municipal cost, that we're gonna just start hiring people and equipment to do it for the village. So want to continue to have this relationship and find a way to fund this.
Anybody else?
I guess I'm looking for direction on how to proceed at this point.
Well-
We're not in a position to make any kind of resolution or motion that I
No.
can see. Would be just directing staff or to work to pull together groups, or?
I think this is probably a board initiative rather than a staff initiative. I guess there's a possibility of creating a committee. We could do a committee of the whole, or
Plan committee,
what's that?
like a plan committee, like.
Yeah.
we'd Have a
Yeah.
plan, 5-year
Do you
plan.
have any interest in doing something like that?
Sure.
Well, okay, then I think if we put it as a future agenda item. And, because we can't take action on that tonight. That's all like, what you have in mind, Tom?
It's more than I had.
I'm sorry?
It's more than I had.
More than you had, yes, okay, good. Okay, good. Anything else on this item? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you for coming in, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. A is a village administrator report. Questions? B is a police chief report, media release from March 20th, 2026 regarding investigating leading to the arrest for online facilitation of child sex crime. Anything to add for that, chief? No? Okay. C is Capital Area Regional Planning Commission report, Fitchburg, Oregon Joint Planning Initiative. Summary findings of key stakeholder discussions. The final written report is included in the packet. Tim?
Just a comment on page 267, I think it was. No,
No.
maybe it was 276.
That's in there.
Land use?
Land use and design regulation, the last two bullet points there. That seems like a significant friction point in terms of finding the resources to be able to work on this. Does it not? I mean, if this project fails, it's probably because we just couldn't find the resources to work on it? What do you think?
I think the way that it's, I guess, suggested within this report is, I guess the city is, would be the administrator of the land use regulations. And as long as the village has a sign off on the legal framework, which would be maybe the zoning code or a land use plan, we've indicated that we're okay if they administer it as long as it's within that structure. And so what we're trying to do there, or what we express there at least, is we don't want to have an increased burden given certain resource constraints right now, and what is being suggested there would potentially avoid that. And would put it on the city of Fitchburg to manage it.
Right.
So to me, I guess that would be a preferable arrangement for the village.
Okay.
Now you're giving up a little bit of control, but we would have some say over the overall framework and structure.
Yeah, and because it's the city of Pittsburgh, you know, they would have the ultimate decision-making anyway. And so I think we agree that best placed with them.
But I will say the next step of this should be coming here within the next couple of months. Will be a proposal from CARPC to do work on the actual intergovernmental agreement, which will actually dig into the details of these sort of broader bullet points.
Okay, and then D is the village engineering consultant report for the wastewater upgrades project monthly report for February 2026. Okay, and then moving on, 11 announcements and miscellaneous business, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board members may provide brief statements, but no discussion or action of the body shall occur. Please.
I just want to mention the library will be closed on Tuesday, April 14th for a staff training. I didn't make the calendar because of my fault. And the other thing is we will be switching to a new software system along with all the other libraries in the South Central system. So that will affect some of the library services starting from April 12th through the 16th. So if you hear any concerns from residents, please send them my way or forward those concerns on to me.
Anybody else from the department heads?
I'm just gonna,
Oh, sorry.
I just want to mention that tomorrow is election day. Spring election. It's election. Yes, Tom, there's an election. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you have any questions or wondering where your polling place is, the best place to look is My Vote Wisconsin. It's myvote.wi.gov.
Thank you. Let's see here. Village board announcements. Tom?
I just, I don't know if this is an agenda item or what, but I would anticipate that at the next meeting, the Senior Center Fundraising Committee will probably have a report and probably several recommendations in relationship to that as part of a report.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's see, and then we have 3 proclamations. One proclamation recognizing Friday, April 26, 2026 as Arbor Day in the Village of Oregon. 2, we have a proclamation recognizing April 19th through 2026 as National Library Week. And 3, proclamation recognizing April 19th through 2026 as Municipal Treasure Appreciation Week. So, Okay, and let's see. Next is future agenda items.
That would be the Senior Center stuff, right? Well, it'd be part of a committee report, so I don't know if it's an agenda item or it's just a committee. I mean, committee reports are on there already, so it'd be part of that. But I would fully anticipate, based on feedback, that we'll probably have some recommendations coming.
Okay, that's it. Anybody else? Okay.
We got the OCA.
Sorry?
We got the OCA for next time.
You got that already?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, item 12, business is concluded without objection. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.